Hi everyone, and welcome to part 2 of our kind of virtual parent-teacher conference time together. Last week we began talking about the different things that we as preschool teachers would have been working on with your kids, and we would have been observing, assessing, taking notes, and making comments and preparing for conferences so we could share those things with you. Well, today I want to kind of finish it up and talk about some things that we didn't get to last week. Last week we talked about a lot of foundational skills, things like letter recognition, number recognition, recognizing, but being able to recite the alphabet, being able to count, being able to count one-to-one correspondence, like, for example, counting how many blocks they have, how many Cheerios they have, that type of a thing. Today, there's a few more of those foundational skills, but then I also want to go on to some higher level thinking skill, some more critical thinking skill things that we work on and observe and assess with them. One of the foundational skills that's so important with preschoolers is to begin working on empathy with them. And one of the critical ways that we do this is by using emotions. Can a child recognize, first of all, their own emotions? Can they say to you how they are feeling? I'm happy today. I'm sad today. I'm angry today. These are really important things for a person to recognize within themselves. If you recognize your emotions, it's the beginning to be able to handle your emotions. Rather than just feeling anger but not knowing what it is and just lashing out, you want to be able to say, okay, I am angry and I need to handle this emotion. I need to find a constructive way to do it. Obviously, a 3-year-old can't think like that, but this is the foundation. This is where we begin, where they can recognize their anger and they can turn to a grown-up for help. They can walk away from a situation. They can also learn at this age to recognize the emotions of other people. Also very critical. This is where empathy begins to come in. You want to make sure that your child can look at you or somebody else and say, they feel sad. Mommy, why do you feel sad today? Mommy, why are you angry today? And let them start to recognize that we all have these emotions and how they can interact with us to help us through our emotions as well. So that is another one of the really important foundational skills that we spend months observing and helping them with and trying to guide them through, because it's not always a natural thing to recognize your own emotions or the emotions of another. So it's something a lot of times that they need guidance through, but you want to make sure that those foundations are beginning, that you're starting to see with them that they can recognize their own emotions plus the emotions of others. Another thing is simply their body parts. Can they tell you where their head is, their shoulders, their knees, their toes? If you have sung that song with your child, you can get creative. You can say, where are your eyes, your cheeks, your elbows, your thighs? Try to fill in the blanks with some different body parts there. So beyond the basic body part recognition, can they tell you what their different body parts are used for? Can they tell you why they have hands, what they use them for? Or fingers, or nose, or eyes, or mouth, or ears, or their legs, or their feet? Ask them those questions. What do you use these for? And of course, as they get older, the 3s, the 4s, the 5s, you're going to get more concrete, logical answers. But do they have the beginnings of the understanding that we don't just have these body parts, they don't just have names, they have functions? We are looking for that as well. Another thing that we spend a lot of time doing is reading books. Parents, you read books. Teachers read books. Books, we all know, are a great way for a child to learn. It builds their vocabulary, it helps their memory, their attention span, it entertains. There's so many benefits. We could go on and on. But one thing we don't always do with the kids that is a very important skill for them is have them retell us the story. I'm sure you've all read your child's favorite book to them more times than you could possibly count. You probably have it memorized even. Well, next time, instead of reading it to them, ask them to tell it to you. And then maybe one that's not so common with them, maybe one you've read once or twice. Can they tell it back to you? You're helping them build their memory skills. You're helping them with their vocabulary, with story sequencing, with just basic recall. You're starting to lay foundations in their brain and make connections in their brain for executive functioning skills that will be useful later on. Some other things you can do besides having them just verbally retell you the story is you can give them props. If they were, like, say, the 3 little pigs, that's always a great one. Give them some sticks, some straw, little things you have around the house. Doesn't even have to stick totally to the story if you have other building materials. And let them try to create and then build the different parts of the story and retell the story as they go through it. Children love dramatic play. Have them act it out, whether they do it by themselves, with other family members, with friends, with stuffed animals, with real animals. Let them be able to just do the dramatic play and retell a story. Another thing along that lines is conversations. We try to have deeper conversations with the kids throughout the time so we can hear how they respond. I know I had a child. What did you do at school today? Nothing. I still get that. What did you do at work today? Nothing. Same answer all the time. So you have to dig a little deeper. You have to look for those other questions. Can they carry on a conversation? Can they start the beginning of the conversation with you and then give you details surrounding the things that you're talking about? Can they ask you questions to continue the conversation? That's also more critical level thinking skills that we are looking for with them. Some other things that you would see in a typical classroom set up kind of around the classroom, we always have themes. Preschool rooms always have themes that we are working on. And what we do with those themes is we teach the idea of the theme. So for example, right now we're doing Thanksgiving and we're going to talk about the first Thanksgiving and why we celebrate it. But then you take that theme and within it, you work on these other things. You can work on story retell with that. You can have conversations about the different parts of it, about the meal. You can have conversations about the first Thanksgiving. But then you can also do things like we did in our circle time yesterday where we took a turkey and we patterned his feathers. I have one here that we used yesterday. Let me show you. Well, first of all, number recognition is happening here. Counting, this one has more than 8 because we were doing something with them. Counting, and then simple patterning we have here too. They can see the red, blue, red, blue, red, blue. You can work all kinds of activities within one theme. Now, patterning is wonderful because it is such a part of everyday life and we don't even realize it. Patterning is really the foundation for mathematical thinking. There's so many patterns and different ways of using them in math. There are tons of patterns in nature. It's amazing if you go out and you take a pattern walk with your child, what you see. Some of it will be man-made. Look at a fence. Maybe they have the kind of pattern where the slats of the fence are, there's one outside, one inside, one outside, one inside, and it goes like that. Look for those kinds of patterns. If you see a raccoon, check out their tail. There's a pattern right there. There's patterns all around us. Music is also based on a lot of patterns. You don't have to just do the traditional patterning, like circle, triangle, circle, triangle, circle, triangle with your child. How about clap once, clap twice, once, twice. You can kind of start doing like things like that. And then see if they start to hear a little beat to it, a little rhythm, and start to look for it when you are listening to songs and doing activities with your kids like that. Patterning, again, is everywhere, and it's a great higher level thinking skill. Another one is sequencing. We would have activities out on the table for the kids right now. Let's say how to cook a turkey. What are the steps? And then we could offer visuals, and then they can put them in order. The first thing you do, the second thing you do, the third thing, the fourth thing. You're also introducing that vocabulary to them too. First, second, third, fourth, before, during, after, next. So you're enriching their vocabulary. You're teaching them to think sequentially. That helps with things like following multi-step directions. First you do this, then you do this, then you do this. First this happens, then that. Sequencing is another very important skill that we assess them on and work with them on. Some other things are sorting. Can you take, again, going back to this, if I put these all out, if I took the clips off and put them on the table, and just ask the child, can you group these for me? Just kind of observe to see what they do. Then say, can you put them in color piles? Maybe make a red pile and a blue pile, and see if they can sort that out. That's one way to sort. Can you sort all of your stuffed toys and all of your hard toys? Can you sort boys and girls? And just see if they can start to categorize things like that. Ordering is another thing. Can you put these in order? Can you take your stuffed animals and put them in order from the smallest one up to the biggest one? Or can you take family members, have us stand in order from oldest to youngest? These are all things that are making connections in their brain and helping them to think at a higher level. So I'm sorry again that we can't be together. We love conference time. Preschool teachers, we love to observe and share the growth of your child with you. Prayerfully, we will all be back together into a normal routine before we know it and sharing these things together in person. In the meantime, I hope these things were helpful and I hope you can use them as you're helping your child prepare to progress through preschool and into kindergarten.